Welcome to the Grow Room, a space where we cultivate consciousness through conversations that take us higher. We are here today with Kristin and Samir of Breathing Web Farms, and we're going to talk about their journey of how they came to their new life on the farm and their experience so far, and how they ended up flowering despite all the challenges that they faced along the way. So thank you guys so much for being here. Really just wanted to start by having you introduce yourselves a little bit and kind of catch people up and give a little background on, what your life was like before moving up to the farm.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
It's totally an honor and a pleasure and a joy to be here in this conversation. My name is Kristin.
I'm Samir.
And we own Breathing Web Farms here in the Finger Lakes, specifically Skaneateles Lake.
Yeah.
Skaneateles, I like to call it.
Skaneateles.
However you gotta say the phonetically.
Skaneateles, I like that one.
I'm originally from New York City, born and raised in Queens. Kristin is from the Rochester area. We met, living down in New York City almost 10 years ago. And after spending a couple years in California, we were getting the itch to kind of get back to be closer to family. And I'm sure we'll get into it. There was like a calling for land. And we kind of fell into farming. To be honest, we knew we wanted to be on land and kind of have an experience like that, but we never thought we'd actually be like farming and really being in an agricultural enterprise. So
you were out in California first. So you guys met in New York City.
Yeah.
Made a journey out to California to just, I guess you don't really need a reason. You just want to live that Cali life. Who doesn't?
Exactly.
He had never lived anywhere other than New York City. I was there for 10 years and really had only lived in New York, except for like a 9-month period. I had a job in California. So we both were like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And he was in real estate, had a big career in real estate and was just ready to wrap that up. And I was looking for something totally different. So it was just, and we have a ton of friends out there. So it just all made sense. And yes, like you said, that Cali life.
Yeah, it's a different vibe, right? But but you were out in California, and how long were you out there for? How long did you stay?
Just under 2 years.
Okay, so that's a pretty long time. Like you really kind of set up your life there, right? And kind of just, what part of California you're in? Santa Barbara?
Yeah, we're in Santa Barbara. And to be honest, until like we realized we should move back, like I was like, this is it. Like we were ready.
Loved it.
We were actually, before we decided to move back, buy this property, I was actually like really getting in the advanced stages of, we were going to open a falafel restaurant.
Wow.
Because you know what? They didn't have one in Santa Barbara. I'm like, whoa, this is like, they have tacos there. That's the street food. So, on the East Coast, falafel and halal, and you have kind of like in New York, you have all, but they're like tacos everywhere. They had no like legit falafel situation. So I was like, oh, this will be a great idea. We'll have a nice little falafel shop.
Because we were at the point where we were like, okay, we're in our 30s. Like, we want to start our family. We need to figure out how are we going to root and ground and make money and all that. So we, Santa Barbara's very touristy, and it's the way to make money is like you kind of got to start a business, really.
Right. Yeah. So that's it. So that's sets us up pretty well for the next phase, right? So planting this seed and kind of getting this idea to leave that amazing, beautiful life in Santa Barbara, because that is beyond beautiful, living in Santa Barbara, right? So like there has to be something that it's almost like a calling, right? Because it defies logic, because I know this, like speaking from experience, it's not a logical thing that tells you to go down this path. It's because when you think about it, there's nothing logical about it. When you really try to unpack it, you can convince yourself not to do it in 100 different ways, but for some reason, the answer is still yes, right? So there has to be kind of something that almost like that calling inside that kind of drives you to that next stage in your life. So it's really about listening to that calling when it comes to. So like, can you describe that moment when you kind of just, that metaphorical seed was kind of planted, and like how you kind of came to actually realizing that, accepting it, and moving forward?
Right. So what was happening was, as Kristin had mentioned, I was a real estate broker in New York City, and had a nice career, but we always knew I knew I wanted to get out of New York City, and I knew I wanted to spend time in California. So while I was in California, I was brought on, some friends of mine own a really awesome cannabis growing operation, Hello Caliber. They have brands like the Weed Brand and Paradiso Gardens. They're a substantial grower in California, and as recreational legalization was starting to once the green light was made, they had asked me to come in and bring some of that kind of more traditional, legitimate sales experience to their company. So I was kind of helping them developing some of their sales platforms and stuff like that. And at the same time, I was also helping them with their real estate, because I was licensed in New York, and when I was in California, I got licensed out there. So I started to kind of develop this little niche in cannabis real estate out in California with legalization. And I was working for this small firm, and so they started like, hey, we want to bring you in all our pitches, because they're like property management. They bring us every time we have a developer, you come in and you do like your cannabis spiel. And there was a developer that had developed this huge like mixed use, like residential, agricultural, industrial, commercial, and like just a mixed use property where he was envisioning like producing wine and like offices for the wine companies and like where the workers could live. And so when I was there, I was telling him, hey, do you know about CBD? And like, I didn't really know that much about CBD, but I understood the economics that as opposed to cannabis, this was going to be an agricultural product. Therefore, like the profit margins and the economies of scale are going to be very different. So, I just kind of gave him that spiel.
Okay.
So then he calls me afterwards and he's just like, you really impressed me at this meeting. I want to talk to you more about this. I think like CBD is really interesting. And we started having and this is like a big time Southern California developer. And he's like, I want you to kind of like spearhead this like, CBD thing with me. And we were looking at it from like building materials. Mm-hmm. So, carbon neutral homes and stuff like that. So long story short, there was this conference in Colorado, which is how I connected with you guys the following year. I went to this conference, and when I went to this conference, I saw this one guy talk about regenerative agriculture, Ray Archuleta. And I was sitting there and I'm hearing this guy talk, and it's like the alarms went off in my head. It's like, you need to get land. You need to be on land and take care of it. And the way this guy's talking about it, even if it's a small piece of land, because, I'm really all about like, walking your talk. So the idea of like being conscious and being and trying to make a difference in the world is all empty to me if I'm not actually doing it. Mm-hmm. And what bigger difference can you make than, at least for me, than being on a piece of land and trying to take care of that land in a way that is improving on it for the future. Like that to me is like, that's very clear. Like you're making a difference when you do that. Right. So that was really a big shift for me. And that same night, Kristin was actually in a seminar, and we had spoke that evening, and you had called me and said,
yeah, it was so weird. So we were separated in different states, and he was having this experience, and I was at this kind of, like transformational, new age, however you want to call it, seminar. And they had them every few months in Santa Barbara, and each one was a different subject. And this one particular one had you really looking at your life and your path, and if it was in alignment with like kind of like your soul, right, your soul calling or whatever. And so it really like struck me in that seminar where I was like, and we were kind of thinking about like, thinking about like rooting and stuff, being away from our families because we're so close, equally close to our families.
Well, I think we were really like California was feeling like, okay, like this is where we're going to be long term.
We knew we wanted to be there, but there was always, I'm sorry, I misspoke. There was always kind of just this little bit of a small hesitation in me to be rooting across the country from my family. But I loved California and I loved our life there. So yeah, we were like ready to root. But this seminar really got inside my head where I was like, I think I got to move back to New York. Like I just had this feeling of, I'm like, I think we need to be closer to family. And it was really uncomfortable because I'm like, wait a minute, I love it here. I don't want to move. Like 2 years is a good chunk of time, but it's not, I felt like I wanted more, but it was such a deep realization that had taken over me in that seminar, and I called Samir or he
so
called me.
We were talking that night and sharing, and she's like, I think I'm really getting the call that family is what's most important. And what I didn't mention is, like, when that guy was talking, I got like this download. Like, sometimes you just get these messages, and it was like, buy land in New York. I'm like, no. And I was like fighting that. And it was actually like making me sick, because I was like,
right.
You know, sometimes in life, you know, something is coming through. And sometimes like, oh, wow, this is amazing. But then you're like, wait, this goes against all my plans.
Right.
And so when she was saying move back to New York, in my head, I was like, wow, this is weird, because I was getting this like thing. It's like, buy land in New York, like out of nowhere, buy land in New York, buy land in New York.
Right.
And
I remember we were both kind of like, okay, let's just sit
see
with
what
this
happens.
because it was weird.
Like,
we
both movements, like, yeah,
it was weird. And so we're like, let's just sit with it and see what happens. And then
and
there's a lot more to it, but
yeah.
And I think that's it though. It's like you said, like it makes you second guess, because logically, like you said, like it's not like you were unhappy in California, but it's like you just knew that you were at this crossroads, right? Like you said, like you would have to put down roots there, really like kind of commit to your life there, or go or find some other way to be, right? And like I think when you come to those crossroads, it's a matter of actually listening to the signs that are telling you which way to go, right? Because I think there's always signs that are happening. It's a matter of paying attention to them or not. And like, what's that?
Well, surrendering.
Yeah. Yep. Surrendering to something, trusting something higher than you is leading your path. And I think that's like such like a perfect, like literal thing that you were like in a seminar about, like finding, you know, which path is aligned with your soul's journey. And like that you are, you know, Samir, you were somewhere completely different, you know, listening to this and just kind of getting that same like kind of download. It's just, it's very, the synchronicities are too hard to argue, right? It's just amazing. And that's when you have to really pay attention. So that's awesome. And I think that is really such a huge part of, farming too. Like, I like that you say that you wanted to be closer to family, and like you wanted like, because that's such a huge part of being on a farm, like, right? Even if you're kind of alone on your farm, you need your community around you to really support. Like that lifestyle has a certain requirement for a community to come together and support each other, right? And in one way or another, people doing different jobs within the farm, within the like kind of familial unit, having different jobs and being able to bring different things to the table, or just kind of neighbors helping neighbors, whether it's, you know, your neighbors might be growing different produce than you are, or raising different animals, and you're able to, you know, share this. And it's just, I think that is all kind of one calling in the same, right? Is like to live off the land, to be able to really do something better that is kind of coming together with family and coming together as a community. So then let's kind of fast forward a little bit. You found this beautiful property, right? This talk about this property that you have in Skaneateles, because it is one of the most gorgeous places that I've ever been to. I love visiting your farm whenever I have the opportunity. It's just gorgeous. So let's set the scene for everybody.
Well,
there's a big red barn.
Yeah, there's a beautiful 110, 115-year-old red barn. We are sitting on the east side of Skaneateles Lakes. These are all glacier deposits, so they're beautiful, clean, freshwater lakes. We're on the east side of the lake, overlooking the lake. We have incredible vistas. We get stunning sunsets. We're sitting on 70 acres. This farm has been in only 2 other families' possession before us. We're the 3rd family to be here. It's never been sprayed with chemicals or anything like that. It's just a pristine, beautiful piece of land. And the land called us, and you know, you say beautiful things about it.
Well, it just actually reminded me to say, when you said synchronicities, the previous owner was living in Santa Barbara before he moved here.
Yeah, he was.
So that there were, you know, we don't have to get into that, but another synchronicity. But this property, you know, it's so interesting because, you know, when Samir showed me this property online, there was, because you talk about like really listening and intuition and all that. And I love how you really like explained some of those things. And for me, on the surface, there was a lot of resistance to leave California at that time. But if I listened below the surface, there was that deeper knowing. And so when he showed me the property online, I was just kind of like, he's like, should we fly back together? Because he flew back and saw it. And then he's like, we should fly back together and you should look at it. And I was like, I was shocked when I heard myself say this. And I'm like, I don't really think I need to. Like it,
yeah,
it just feels right. So anyway, it's so peaceful here. Like there's an energy and a soul to this property that, I mean, I guess it spoke to me, through the internet. But then when I came here in person, I really felt it even more. Like you just get here, and I always tell people, like when others visit, I just witness their shoulders drop like 3 inches. Like people just come here and immediately relax. We hosted a CBD yoga retreat here last summer, and the women they had just arrived. They didn't even take their coats off. It wasn't even 10 minutes in and they were like crying. They were like, this is what I need. And I'm like, how do you know? But
Yep.
You get here, there's a spirit, there's a soul, there's an energy that you just feel nurtured, you feel comforted, you feel at home, you feel at peace. And it's just, we've lived here a year and a half now-ish. And I feel so comforted by this place. And like Samir said, on the outside, it's the views, it's the trees, it's we have woods,
Yeah, we have woods, we have running stream, we're on about 70
but beneath
acres.
That, there's something that you just feel so good here.
Yeah, it's true. It's beyond like, it's surface level, just beautiful, but it is the energy that makes it a truly special place. And that's, it just keeps calling you, right? Like you knew it just from seeing it online. You're like, yep, you can't pass that place up for sure. So you decide to get the place, right? But before actually like making the official move, you went to Burning Man. You were able to.
Gotta bring that into
I love the story.
Yeah.
So how did Burning Man help you prepare for life on a farm? I think that, for people who know what, getting involved in Burning Man is about, I don't think it'll come as quite a surprise that like it helps to prepare you for this, but the way that it also kind of brought the right people into your life at the right time, I think is such an amazing story as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, Burning Man is a big part of our lives. Been going for 8 or 9 years, taking some years off in between, but the community we built there and made there are really important in our lives. And, Burning Man is definitely awesome. Big party. It's insane. It's madness, but it's also one of the most wholesome places on earth. It's also one of the places where some of the most innovative and creative and expressive things that humanity is doing is you can find it there. And when you go there, you'll see a couple years later something you've seen there, it's become part of like mass media or mass marketing. Like you see the inception of so many ideas there because it's so free and it's so honest and it's so expressive. And going to a place where like Burning Man, where everyone is really relating to each other in a way that's hard to in the world, allows for like the best version of yourself to come forward. It really calls forward the best version of you and whoever you want to be. And you feel free to express that and explore what it's like to be that version of yourself. Because that's what we're doing in life. We're like being these versions of ourselves. Like we're being Farmer Samir and Farmer Kristin, or real estate Samir, or husband and wife. And we have all these roles and how we show up to these roles. And I think what most people want
teaches you to step outside the box of just one role and that you can put on many hats. Yeah.
Or how you just put on the hat that fits you the best. And it's usually all of those things together. But I think the most thing is like people like to show up. They like to feel valued and like they like to add value. So we've been going for a long time. And the last year before we bought the farm, I was running the camp. It's a 100-person camp, and we have a huge infrastructure, and we offer like hair washing. So we're bringing like tons of water to the desert, and we're providing this really valuable service. And so I was leading the camp, and Kristin was in charge of the kitchen. And so as you can imagine, like feeding 100 people 7 days in the middle of actually 14 days, because there's the setup and the breakdown on the outside. Yeah. So these are huge undertakings and responsibilities while everyone's trying to like have this crazy experience. So like how serious can you get? But it's serious. And we're running the camp. And so that was a great experience for us, like running the camp together, being in charge, seeing like how does it be like to be in that position. But also while we were there, a friend of ours, this girl, Alana, a dear friend of ours, she was supposed to come. She wanted to like come in early with us, and like I forgot to like get her on board with us, and we're like on the way there already. And she's like, "Hey, I'm here waiting." I'm like, "Oh my God, you have to meet us at like this random gas station like in Nevada, and like this is where you can meet us." And she meets us. She gets there early, and then her boyfriend comes, Daniel, who was our farming partner last year.
Well, we had just met him.
Well, we met him.
Yeah.
He comes to Burning Man, and like within 5 minutes, this guy was just like putting in work, you know, and like a few days later, we found out he was a farmer, and like we just had this
and that
great.
They lived an hour away. In
Where we were gonna be, and like we weren't even thinking to work with them, but it was just, and then we'd run into them. Like it's a huge place, like 70,000 people, and we'd run into them in the middle.
Synchronicities and Burning Man are things you cannot ignore. They're amazing.
I can only imagine, yeah,
they're amazing.
Energy. Yeah.
When we got back, it was like called him, and next thing you know, it's like, hey, do you want to help us with this farm thing we have going on? And you know, the thing is like, you know, when Google was looking for a CEO, they brought people to Burning Man. They're like, okay, who can still be a team player, be awesome, and still show up really powerfully under the most extreme, insane circumstances?
Yeah, dust storms, like it's no joke
Party,
out there.
people are taking substances. You have a lot of different factors that like can throw people off. And if someone shows up on the first day within the first 15, 20 minutes and they're just ready to go, ready to like put in work and get stuff done,
and they're still ready to do that on the last day.
Yeah, then it's like that's someone I could probably lean on in life. So that was like, he was pre-vetted before we knew how to vet him. And it was good that we made that relationship, because we didn't know we were going to be farming when we got this property. We thought we were going to be operating a wine tasting room that was like a CBD infused wine, and that someone else was going to like farm some CBD on the property to create like this experience. And that all fell through. And then we were just left with this property, and we were like, what are we going to do? Let's farm. And Daniel was kind of,
That's like a huge kind of, part of your story too, because that was a main reason that you bought, this property, like looking like, it's
views with the barn.
The views and everything like that, like that picturesque kind of feeling that we were talking about, like that vibe, like that was, with the intention of a venue, right? But I think all kind of just unfolded as it should, right? It was definitely made for some bumps in the road, but so like, you had to kind of pivot, like you said. Now so you thought that it was going to be like this venue and wine tasting and everything like that, and then kind of having that rug pulled out from under you, not only with like that definite income, but also with like, now we have to kind of pivot our whole approach. So now you have to farm. You just so happen that you met a
like, let's just go all in.
Themselves.
Yeah, I'm farming then if we're not doing this. But something I want to touch on, Brittany, that we're talking about is like pivoting and all this stuff. Surrendering is a huge word that is a part of our lives now and has been a part of our lives. And right before all this came to fruition in Santa Barbara, we had read this book called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And it tells his story so beautifully on how he surrendered and how his life unfolded. And when we finished reading that book, because we were at that crossroads, what do we do? Here, there, what? We were like, let's just take these principles in these books, even though we've been, practicing surrendering our lives and going with the flow for a bit now. Why don't we really take it to this level? And we just said, show us, universe, like, where are we going? What are we doing? So, that was so helpful, because when the tasting room fell through, it's like, okay, like, wasn't meant to be. Like, instead of getting freaked out, like, there are nerves, like, how are we going to pay this? We were really relying on a lot of that income. We still were able to ground down into those principles of surrendering and just trusting, right? Like a huge level of trust had to come into play for that to fall through. That really helped us to let go of that and to full-fledged go into farming.
Well,
that also kind of leads into the next kind of phase of this growth cycle, right? And that's the stretch. So that's the plant is now continuing to reach up towards the sun, continuing to follow this path that it was destined towards and continue to grow in preparation for the big buds that are about to develop and that weight that they're going to have to carry. The plant just kind of has to trust what's happening and keep following the path towards the sun and keep expanding itself to take on these new responsibilities. So now, like you said, the surrendering had to happen, and you had to just continue to expand yourself. And would love for you guys to talk about that, kind of how after that point, after like just kind of surrendering to what's happening with the taste room, you're now on this new version of your journey, right? So if you want to talk about that a little bit, and kind of the challenges that you faced as first year farmers, and also the challenges that you faced kind of as a couple, and getting to starting to relate to each other in different ways and learn new things about yourselves, right, in the process.
I think that, like Kristin had said, we kind of started taking on this context of life to surrender. So when the tasting room fell through, it didn't occur to us as a disaster, but as just like, okay, this is really okay. The opportunity, right? The opportunity is to take what's happening and make something out of it, rather than rather than crumble. And like you said, it's like there's this weight, and you got to like stretch, and you got to grow, and that's kind of one of the biggest things about Burning Man, is like you're being stretched out, and you're growing. And there's other places in the world where you can stretch and grow. You don't have to go to Burning Man to get it. The one thing that you get at Burning Man, and it's one of the tenets, is like self-reliance, and it's like radical self-reliance. It's like, you got to figure it out. You got to do this. And self-reliance doesn't mean that you can't get help, but it means like figure out what help you need and where to get help. It means handle as much of what comes your way yourself. And so when that fell through, and I said, well, we have a property here, and CBD was this lucrative thing, even though like I had never intended to be like, I start a CBD brand or be a CBD farmer. I was sitting here with a property, and all the contacts I had made and everything was like saying CBD is what you want to do. So we said, okay, we can farm. And having experiences like going to Burning Man when you're a kid from New York City back in like 2010, and just going there and like building a camp, that was only like 20 people, and then turned into a huge,
anything.
It's like, I can figure this out. Like, like what's so hard about it? It's going to be challenging. It's going to cause us to grow. We're going to learn a lot, but it's like, take the specifics out of the situation, and it's like boilerplate. It's like, you're going to be a beginner. You're going to learn. You keep a positive attitude. You work hard, and there's going to be results. So basically we said, okay, we have this land, let's farm 10 to 12 acres of CBD, and we'll sell it, and hopefully we'll make a decent amount of money, and that'll kind of make up for everything else that was supposed to happen. And, while it was extremely beautiful, it was extremely challenging. I mean, like, it was the hardest work you'll ever do, especially.
I've never worked it so hard in my life.
We did 12 acres, and there's really like three of us full-time working it. And so that was like, super hard work, and it was definitely more than we could have handled, and we really grew, and like we're still figuring out how to relate to each other. Like, we work together, we live together, we play together. We have parts of the farm that are like fun and experimental, parts of the farm that are enterprise,
parts of the farm we agree on, parts of the farm we disagree on.
And because the CBD thing, the CBD market really changed while, this year. So it wasn't as lucrative as it needed to be. We also have like, off farm work that we're doing too. And it's really funny how like, you'll just like, we're working, we have our office and we both have desks, and like Kristin like will say something to me, I'm like, please, I'm working right now. I'm like working, and she's like, oh yeah, the chickens get with, and I'm just like, and then like 45 minutes later, I'm like, I was thinking for the logo. She's like, please, and it's just like, we're learning
how to have our boundaries, right? So, but I am proud of us.
Like, what's for dinner? Like, what's for lunch? It's like,
we are constantly doing our best to really learn. And I think something that helps us so much is that like, we constantly reflect on like, okay, like what is not working? That clearly was triggering. So like, what do we need to put in place to really help us to, have those boundaries that like things aren't just getting spilled into every area when you're working separately off the farm and I'm working off the farm, or when you're not open to receiving conversation. Because, you know, like Samir and I we're coming up on 10 years of being in relationship together, and we've always spent so much time together, so it hasn't really been like something new. But I think putting that with now not just working but taking on a massive endeavor that is all around the clock. I mean, if we don't tend to the animals' needs or the plants' needs, they're going to die. And sometimes that's when the sun goes down, and sometimes that's at 6 a.m. and it's just like, so there's a lot of like, and you know, I sometimes think I'm like, well, this is preparing me for children. But there's a lot of, you know, every day you got to figure it out. And I think the most important thing is having compassion for each other, because it's so easy to get mad at each other. And we
like
now
take
have
it
to
out
like,
on each other.
we just have to voice, I'm in a triggered state right now, or I'm really annoyed right now. And that helps to just name it in the moment versus holding it in. And then you're just acting like a jerk or like or whatever. If you're not like, I don't want to talk to this person, but you're not saying it. You're like, now's not a good time. It's so much easier. Great. Let's reconvene.
And the thing, like the plant growing and the cannabis plant, it gets these big buds, and like, you know, plants are always surrendering. They're like it's like, oh, I want to grow that way, but the sun is this way, you know, but that sucks. No, the plant's just like, this is where the light is. This is the opportunity is. This is the weight of my flower, of my bud. And I think we're always looking for growth edges. At least I am. I mean, maybe her less than me, because I'm like kind of pushing us, and I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with it. But growth. No, we both like growth, and it's like, and you know, the amount that we grew last year, starting a farm with no farming experience, with, you know, and we grew a beautiful crop. We're so proud of our crop. It's a certified organic. It's a good crop. We did our job. Sometimes the markets, the outside circumstances aren't going to be like matched up with what you did, but that's not in your control. And again, you just surrender to that. What are you going to do about it? We grew a beautiful crop. We grew it the right way. We did our job, and still at the end of the day, you know, it didn't necessarily work out. Oh, well, you know, that's life sometimes, but that growth we had, and now we know what our capacity is. We know, like, oh, wait, our capacity is at least that. And we didn't know it was that before. And we know that now. And we know when we get into things, like, our capacity is that much higher, and it's that much stronger. And I think, you know, there's this, you know, this Navy SEAL saying, it's like, when you hit 40%, when you're ready to quit, you hit 40%. And I know for a fact we were ready to quit multiple times. What are you going to do? You can't quit. The plants need things. And like, we had losses. We had germination issues. We had, we lost thousands of plants to males. We had mold issues. We had there wasn't enough room to dry and harvest issues. I mean, we had shot after shot after shot. And you know what? We took all of them like champs, and you can't ever take away that growth that you had. It's a part of you. It's muscle that's been built. So
and tie it back, the family experience that came together. I'll never forget, on Harvest, we had a team of 8 people on the first day confirmed from Indeed.com or whatever, and only 2 showed. But that was also the same night, or the same night we were supposed to have a family gathering to celebrate.
We had a harvest. We had a harvest earlier than we thought because of mold, and we had a big family. Her whole family was coming to see the fields, and we had them all harvesting, 12 of them, running around harvesting.
Listen, guys, we're gonna early harvest, but if you still want to come, we'll still have dinner together. You can spend the night. It'll be great. We'll finish by 6, whatever. Let me tell you something. It's a running joke in my family now. Anytime I invite them to dinner, they're like, "Oh yeah, they're gonna put us to work." They were all out, but they kept it. And when we sat around the dinner table, whatever holiday it was this year, I don't know if it was Christmas or, one holiday recently that we sat around the table and we went around and said, what is everybody's favorite memory from 2019? And everybody said Harvest. Yeah. They want to make a yearly thing out of it. So the family that is for me, that is the most joy, but with both sides of our family, how we've gotten to really connect here has just been so deep and beautiful. And with the community as well. So
yeah. And I think that's it's so like literally like grounding being at the farm, right? And like just having your family who are not even from families from upstate New York, Kristin, but Rochester, it's a city, right? Like it's not like they're out on the farm every day. I'm sure that they're living a fairly conventional life, right? Like suburban kind of life.
Yeah,
and
suburban, very suburban, and then urban for him. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So like even for those people to come up on the farm and use their hands and connect to the plants and really like not just see them but work with them, and like it is really something else. And we've seen it on our farm as well. Like, we have family that comes up and visit friends, like, and just the like you described, people's shoulders dropping when they come up to the farm, like that, like look that they get, like the feeling that you can like feel that energy change from the moment that they stepped onto your property, from the moment that they're leaving. And it's so much of it has to do with just actually interacting with the land and actually like touching the plants, and like just having that level of connection with nature is something that we don't realize how much we are missing that in our lives. As maybe not us individually anymore, right? But think of us 2-3 years ago, right? Like how often did you have the opportunity to really, get your hands dirty, to really kind of be at the mercy of Mother Nature, right? Like, so like talk about surrendering. Farming is like just the ultimate surrender to Mother Nature, right? Just like you have absolutely no say in the matter. You can do everything you want, like you can think that you're doing everything perfectly. Mother Nature has another plan, and forget it. Your whole world is turned upside down, and you guys have to adapt, right? You just have to adapt.
Storms in mid-April.
Yeah, right.
You don't get to choose when you farm. Like you don't get to choose when you harvest. You don't get to choose. Like it's just like, okay, now's the window.
Right.
Tell me when.
Yeah, exactly. You're completely at mercy of Mother Nature, and it takes it takes a lot of faith and just takes a lot of patience, right? And I think that it's amazing that you guys were able to recognize the growth opportunities there, because I think I am probably more similar to you, Samir, in that sense of like but I don't even like realize it, but I'm always on to the next project before one even stops, right? Yeah. And I can see the look that Kristin has on her face is the look that Eric has on his face whenever I say, oh, well, like, yeah, and he's just like trying to catch your breath. But like, I know that he loves it, and I know that you love it. And in a way that like this is, and like, I'm sure that there are even times, Samir, like when you're feeling, maybe just like a little tired or a little defeated, Kristin somehow rises up and becomes that energy that powers you forward. Right. And I think that that's definitely such like a beautiful thing about your relationship, and about like talk about like living and working together. Like that's the flows that you need, because there's always going to be those little fights. Eric and I have the same thing, like, just trying to set those boundaries and divide like personal and professional. Those boundaries are never going to be completely clean. Right. And it's almost better when it's not, because those messy parts are like where your love and support for each other gets you through, right? Like it's like those really difficult parts is like knowing that person on the other side, like not only is your partner in business, but like loves you and like wants to support you and wants you to succeed. Like, you're going to keep pushing each other forward. That there's only going to be forward movement, no matter how many times you stumble down a little bit, like you're always going to keep that climb up because you have each other's back. So it's really beautiful to see with you guys.
Yeah, really well said. Kind of touched my heart just thinking about knowing you guys and how beautiful you guys work together and what you guys have built in this. Like, today was a long day. Kristin, like, she did a lot, household stuff and work stuff and farm stuff. Like, I really saw her today just like, really pushing through and really carrying a load, like, of things like that, there's sometimes she's like, well, if we're going to get all these ducks, like, you got, and then she's like, leading the charge on things.
Mother goose. So.
It's, it's this way of life, though, is honestly, whether we knew it or not, always what we were like driving towards. And what I mean is like you said, like it's better that these things are together, because like there's nothing that's more exciting to me than know that like the way that we're making a living and the way that we are providing for ourselves, not just financially, but providing our sustenance, and the way that we're interacting out in the world, it's all the same thing. It's like us as a family unit, as a partnership, doing these things. And like, so yeah, like, you know, there's days where we're super busy and stressed. There's also days where we're having a beautiful day working, and then like we're eating off the land and we're having lunch and we can take a nap and then go back to work together. And like, there's this rhythm of life that is so like, because it's not so compartmentalized, there's just all this like magic that happens in these moments in the day. And like the lifestyle of working land, of farming, of having a business together, it's really fantastic. And we're just so grateful for it. And I'm glad that things worked out the way it did, and that we ended up falling. And I say we fell into farming. Like, I know we bought a farm, but I really thought I was going to be more kind of like executively managing the farm. And this is so much better.
Yeah.
It's so much better that we're doing the work.
Yeah, and I think that brings us to like this final stage of flowering, right? So you grew and expanded to get ready for this path that you just like perfectly described, that, you know, you're kind of in this rhythm now, and you are, you know, in this new role that you didn't anticipate, but I think like I feel like it suits you guys. I mean, I know I don't know you that well, but I just feel like this works. I don't know. It feels right. It feels right. So like this is like the beauty of the whole journey manifested in tangible forms, right? The resiliency of the plant reflecting your own resilience, and the rewards that you gain from it. So just now I want you to explain to everybody, kind of really get into it, what life on Breathing Web Farms is like now, because you're not just doing hemp. You're not just seeing it. You have a real farm operation going on there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, life is depending on us in a way right now. We have animals.
Yeah, we have
plants.
So yeah, we have laying hens. So we produce eggs. We have certified organic pasture raised chickens that are laying beautiful eggs, and you know, getting that out to the local community. We're also starting a poultry operation this year in earnest. So we're producing you know, meat birds as well, certified organic pasture raised. We just got our first ducks on the property this year too. We had 1/8 of an acre last year in vegetable production, and we're almost doubling that this year. And you know, we're still finding our niche or what it is we want to produce, but what we're building here, and kind of when I talk about regenerative agriculture, what I always saw for the vision for this place was a diversified farm that is not just about producing food, but it's about giving people an opportunity to connect with themselves, with land, with the rhythms of nature, with life itself. And that's what Breathing Web's Farms, that's what our vision for this place is. Not just a place where things are produced, but a place where people come to experience that relationship with life in all of its different facets. And we truly believe in having a diversified operation to do that. And again, you know, the principles of regenerative agriculture are to have a farm that is improving on the land, and in turn that improvement on the land year to year is improving your production. So you're getting better production, you're getting better yields by taking care of the land in a really intentional way. It's not just like get as much out of it as you can.
It's a truly symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. You take slowly, but you got to feed, you know, if the land is feeding you, all the vegetables, it's pulling nutrients, it's pulling stuff out of the earth that you're then consuming. So what are you doing to put food back into the earth, for the soil, for the animals, for all that biodiversity in the soil that's producing life? I mean, we can get into the science of it, but the point is that we are trying to build a place that stands for something, for people to have an experience. And we're just getting started, and you know, it's a fight, and we don't know, you know, we don't even know if we'll make it to see that vision through. But all we know is that we believe in the vision, and we believe in doing it together, and we believe in doing it with people like you and Eric and other farmers.
Helpful. You guys were the community, and in the cannabis community is amazing, but and the community around here has been amazing. But just to speak to you guys specifically, you know, you talk about family. For us, family, there's blood family, there's soul family.
It's all family.
It's all family. And the way that you guys showed up for us, you know, everything went wrong for us when we got started.
Out, you know, a few
you've
times.
been so, you know, gracious and generous with your offerings to us and staying connected. And it's just been incredible to really see, you know, that.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, to the quality of people you guys are, like, I hardly knew Eric. We met at the conference, and our, you know, comedy of errors, our bed shaper broke. We're already a month behind. And I call him, like, what do I do? He's like, just come pick up ours. You know, yeah, just come borrow this, you know, few $1,000 piece of equipment. I don't even know, you take it, bring it back.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And that's how, you know, our relationship started, with that kind of like trust and like help and support, not competition, like support. And, so we're trying to take that you guys experience, bringing our family on the farm, seeing how our families are reacting, and sharing that. And I think, you know, having the animals, having the food production, having some sort of hospitality, some sort of experiential venue kind of thing to tie that together is really important to us. Yeah. And
people reach out all the time. They want to have retreats in the barn. When is the barn going to be ready? Yeah. And, you know.
Yeah.
But we're still on the path of surrender and trust and faith. How will it unfold? What's going to reveal? Like, we still feel that calling. How long will it last that we can be here? You know, it's just like, it's all unfolding.
I was just say, like, surrendering isn't about just like, oh, okay. Because, like, it's like we talked about the plant. Like, the plant can't move. The plant doesn't give up. It says, oh, this is blocking me. You've seen plants that, like, will go this way and that way. Surrender isn't about, like, giving up
and just being complacent and stagnant.
It's about saying, this is what's in front of me.
Yeah.
These are the cards I have, then I will play them with everything I have. Yep. And I think, you know, that's where we're at. Like, this is the hand we've been dealt now. This is the way we've played it. So we got to give it everything we got.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. And through that process, it's so clear that you've built something with meaning and with heart behind it. And that, you know, no matter where this path leads, I think that, you know, it'll at the very least be fulfilling to you, and like be something, talk about, like, you know, just gaining growth and experience, and, you know, being able to move forward in anything that you do from here with a completely different perspective is just invaluable. But to speak to the community building aspect, I mean, it's really just, that is like what we were saying before, that's just so much of the farming spirit and so much of, like, that kind of communal spirit. But, you know, Eric and I had the pleasure of being at your farm during a couple of these experiences you're talking about, that yoga retreat, one of your just, like, family parties where all your whole family was around. Like, your mom cooked the most insane paella, Samir. That was amazing. That was the biggest thing I've ever seen in my life. And everybody was just enjoying it and eating it and just having such a great time and just being, right? And that's like, that's it. It's just being and letting our hearts beat match the beat of nature, right? That's one of my favorite quotes. And that is what you can do when you actually ground yourself and you connect and you just kind of go with the flow of nature. Amazing things happen, right? You follow, like, that calling. That is like the rhythm of nature, that calling, right? When you slow down enough to actually hear it and listen to it and tune in and just kind of tune in your frequency to the frequency of nature, like, these amazing things happen. And I think that that's, you know, just trying to get that to as many people as possible is such, like, an amazing kind of motivation or mission that you have, because that's something that I think we were saying before, so many people are missing it, but not even realizing it, right? So just, like, teaching people who just live in a 1-bedroom apartment, like, how you can still get that connection, right? Take care of, like, a little plant, like a basil plant or something like that, or microgreen, something that you can tend to and prune and still have that experience, right? Like, just, like, that comes from you guys taking that step. That comes from you leading, and that comes from you surrendering and being able to, like, okay, now I have all of this energy, this knowledge, and this kind of power and passion behind me. Like, how do I spread it to other people? Like, to approach it with such kind of, not I don't even want to say selflessness, but generosity, right? Like, just recognizing the way that this can help so many others. And I think that that's summed up so well, even in the name of your farm, right? Breathing Web, how it it's all connected. I know that you have some, there's meaning behind that name, but I think just on the surface level, it's just the way that we're all connected, right? This ecosystem, whether it's all the different things you're growing on the land, whether it's all you and the different members of your community, it's you and your community and the land, it's all connected. So we need to do our parts to make sure that we are nurturing that connection and fostering greater connection and just strengthening the fibers of, nature, community, and love, and kind of just letting it grow from there, right?
It's such a symbiotic relationship. Like what I was visioning when you were speaking is like, think about when you water your plants, your vegetable plants, you're giving to them, and then they have these amazing fruits or vegetables, and they give so much back to you. It's so simple.
That's it.
Yeah, like you said, like I think anyone can find ways to get related with nature. I mean, I think like when we lived in New York City, we were living up in Harlem, and we had our dog, and just like walking in Central Park every morning. Like the dog needs a walk, and there's a park, and then you like and
there was this beautiful waterfall we would always go to.
The northern part of Central Park has like the North Woods, so it's kind of like a little nature, but like you said, go buy a basil plant and take care of it, and pick off just enough basil so that more will grow and more will grow. And you'll be like, wow, that's how nature works. I mean, we talk about you need to prune for the growth, and then the pruning hurts, right? And there's that growth. Or you can buy a mushroom log and you water it, and then you get mushrooms. Or you can grow plants, microgreens. There's so many amazing things you can do even when you don't have access to land to connect to nature. But the thing about, go ahead.
Well, I even just want to say, because some people might be like, mushroom logs, microgreens, fine. Like just going to your farmer's market and saying, I'm going to go connect with this farmer and buy my produce from him or her and
ask
just
him
support that. Yeah, well, what is this like interesting squash that I've never seen before? Oh, that's a way to connect and to feel good too. Like you don't have to do it yourself. Like everybody can, but you can do it in other ways.
Exactly. Just knowing your source, right, is just such a step above where so many are right now. So just knowing your source is a connection to that nature, because now you just have a new perspective, this new appreciation of like, wow, this person is actually out in the field and caring for it. It allows you to make that connection, even if you're not doing it yourself. Like you said, it just kind of is like, oh, this doesn't just like appear out of nowhere, right? Like there's like a journey that this food has to go through to get to my plate, right? There's this whole other journey to it, and just a recognition and appreciation of that journey is a recognition and appreciation of our own journey, right? I think that we've displayed that. We've used plenty of metaphors, and I really love it. I'm a big fan of puns, so this is all fantastic. But thank you guys so much for doing this, for having this conversation. I think it's so important, and I'm really looking forward to continuing these conversations with you guys and finding new ways to help people connect in these ways. So how can people find you and learn more about Breathing Web?
Well, we're on Instagram, Facebook at Breathing Web Farms. And our website will be up May 1st, breathingwebfarms.com. And we're making stories where we got posts there. It's the easiest way to keep in touch with us.
He's so funny on Instagram. Please follow us just for entertainment.
I will definitely vouch for that. I will vouch for that 100%. Watching videos of Samir busting his ass going to feed the chickens in the morning. It's something you do not want to miss. Must-see TV right there.
For the people,
so good.
For the people. But we're there, and thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
TONIC is just an awesome brand. You guys are true pioneers. Also female pioneer. It's just an awesome to witness, and it's just an honor to be in relationship with you guys and to be able to just see you guys how you crush it. So thanks for having us, and we're here for you guys.
All right, love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.